course of the last month, you and I have spoken several times, every morning, every night,
At least.
right? And I always check to see if there's any updates.
Right.
Now that we are a month out and I have the luxury of having you in front of me, I'd like to know. I want to just basically run through a lot of the questions I've asked before in case
Sure.
anything has changed, and also some new questions that I've drawn up here.
Sure.
From your experience,
Mhm.
how many years have you had in law enforcement?
Just passing 30.
Okay, so a lot of experience, right?
A lot of experience.
Seen a lot of things.
Yes.
Worked a lot of cases.
Yes.
Okay. When people are saying, "Hey, look, how can law enforcement not have seen here? How can they have not done that?" You're saying you guys probably already are doing those things.
Yes.
How much does law enforcement know? How much is law enforcement doing that us in the media or people in the public don't know about, just to make sure that the investigation is not being messed with, not being keeping the integrity of the investigation?
Well, again, we're gathering as much information as we can. We're sharing that information. We're putting that information together to see where this thing or if it will lead us in a certain direction.
So there isn't, just to clarify, there hasn't been anything really new since the last time we spoke.
Nothing big or earth shattering that I can share at this point.
Well, I think I saw this, and I maybe saw that, and I had a dream the other night that this happened.
We followed up on some leads and some tips and some clues that once again did not pan out to be true.
Aside from, we'll get into the rumors. I've already touched on a few, but we'll get into those shortly. I know that there have been some, you mentioned you've been following up on every clue or every investigation or kind of, what's the word, lead that any of the locals or the neighbors have given you.
Yes.
Have there been a lot of false leads or discoveries from the public? But you generally follow up on most of those leads, or?
The best. So between us and Bakersfield, we try to follow up on everything.
Yeah.
If it has enough substance for us to follow up on.
So we don't operate off of hunches, innuendo, or rumor. Everything that we believe has to be based on fact. However, we're going to let the investigation play out and the facts speak for themselves. I can't speculate. We go where the facts take us, and we go where the tips that are corroborated and are valid take us.
But again, we can't be closed off. We have to look at this, and if the evidence starts to build over here and the mountain gets higher and higher, we're going to start focusing here more. But if something comes in that leads us another, then we're going to at least check that out and see how that weighs out against this. Does it match up? Does it not? Are we totally in the wrong spot? We could be. But as the information comes in, this mountain keeps building. So we need to, because we don't want to specifically look at one thing or one person, because first of all, that's not fair, and second of all, that means we're not open to the whole investigation. We have to be completely open. But however, we have to continue to follow the leads and clues where they go. And if they keep going, pointing in that same direction, then we're going to keep following that path. And I'm sorry I can't. I'd love to tell you, exactly you're right, and this is what we know, and this is what we're looking at, and this is what we want to do, and we have this specific suspect in mind, and we're going to make an arrest today. I would love to tell you that. And I'm trying to be as transparent as I can without, tainting the investigation.
And so we're starting to get into details that, we're going to protect. And it's not because we like keeping secrets, but we have to protect the integrity of the investigation. So we're not going to give out witness statements. We're not going to give out statements made by people that we've contacted at all, because we do not want to close doors in anything, even though we may take a beating. And I'm not going to get into specific about theories because investigations are still occurring. But we can't talk about what we're doing because our goal is to bring these boys home and find out what happened. And to release information that is extremely specific like that could jeopardize that. I'm not willing to do that. I don't think you want to do that. And I know the investigators don't want that to happen. And unfortunately, law enforcement can't talk about the specific details of what we may or may not know. We have to protect the integrity of the investigation. We have to keep things close to our chest. You know as well as I do that if people are involved in this investigation, we don't want that information out there because it can severely impact the course of the investigation. I can't speculate. We go where the facts take us, and we go where the tips that are corroborated and are valid take us. Well, so I'm not going to get into the specific details. It's either going to be through a tip or the investigative process, whether that is evidence that has been located previously or an interview. And the unfortunate reality is that you're not going to narrow me down further than that because I have to protect the integrity of the investigation. We know the public that's here demands answers. They want answers. I would like to be able to give them some of the information I have, but the reality is we can't. We have to keep this close to our chest because the result is whether we find the truth of what happened, and we can't taint that. So that's the reality that we're dealing with. I'm not going to be able to get into specifics, but there are numerous individuals, and we're getting into semantics of legalese that I'm not going to divulge who specifically is questioned. I am absolutely not going to get into the details of it, and for the aforementioned reasons. Anything as far as the interviews and interrogations and statements provided by anybody, regardless if it's a community member or someone more closely involved in the case, I am not going to provide that information. And the reason for that is because, one, it discourages people from providing information to us if I go in front of cameras and talk about what they told me. Two is I cannot provide the facts of the case, and I know you want it, and I know you're doing your job, and the public wants answers, but the unfortunate reality, like I said before, and I know I sound like a broken record, is we have to keep that close to our chest. We have to.
So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching, and we appreciate it, and nobody ever could tell, we could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue.
Sorry, Chief, last question for me. Can you confirm since the beginning of this incident from last week that there has been nobody detained or arrested during this entire investigation?
There's no one been arrested.
Has anyone been detained?
Well, people have been questioned.
Okay.
Formally detained, no.
And not held in custody upon their own will?
No.
Okay.
Has anyone been arrested since the day these kids went missing?
In conjunction with this case, no. No one.
Okay. Anyone detained since the first day these kids went missing?
No.
We were told the best are out here looking already, just to stay put. They have more questions. There was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down. We would ask, can we go help? They had to sit down.
Said nope.
He said, no, we got the best out there.
So
we
it's
need
not,
you guys here in case we have more questions.
I don't want you guys thinking we
don't.
didn't try. We actually
We
looked
tried.
before we called the police.
Yes.
Questioning the parents. That has happened, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so you earlier mentioned that you guys questioned the parents.
Yes.
But we can't talk about what we're doing because our goal is to bring these boys home and find out what happened. And to release information that is extremely specific like that could jeopardize that. I'm not willing to do that. I don't think you want to do that. And I know the investigators don't want that to happen, and the people that care about the boys.
And it's important to note that the adoptive parents, according to what you've told me in the past, they've been more than willing to come in anytime you guys have requested, correct?
Yes, they've come in multiple times actually.
And BPD didn't inform you guys, hey, look, we saw surveillance footage that showed something alarming.
No, they have not shared that with us.
He told us he called within minutes of them going missing. Were you guys able to determine that too?
Yes.
Since they were there in September.
Originally, the neighbors we did contact said that they had no knowledge there were kids in the house, but since then we have had neighbors come forward and say that they did have knowledge that there were children staying in the house.
Where was the last positive ID, hence the last time Orrin and Orson were seen?
To the best of our knowledge,
Yes.
the day that they went missing.
Was there a last positive ID of Orrin and Orson West anywhere other than California City?
Probably in Bakersfield with the grandmother.
Okay. So then the grandmother confirmed a specific date where
Yes.
she saw the kids last.
Yes.
When was that?
I'm not going to disclose that.
Okay. Has there been anybody other than family that has positively ID'd, hence seen Orrin and Orson West in Bakersfield?
I would have to review the notes, but yes.
A yes, that there has been someone other than family that
Yes.
has seen the two kids.
Yes.
Positively ID'd them.
Yes.
Can you disclose that date? to
No.
me? And for people who watch this and wonder, hey, why can't they disclose that? What is the reasoning?
Because those are significant dates, and we don't want people to start speculating, well, again, with the rumors, well, they saw him on this date, but they didn't see him on that date, so this must mean this is what happened, and that's not true. So we want to keep those dates close to the vest and those people as well.
We've also, in previous conversations, spoken about surveillance footage.
Okay.
Obviously, Cal City PD's aware that there's surveillance footage out there, correct?
There's footage off of security cameras from the neighboring homes. That is correct.
Okay. Are you aware of what's been shown in any of the footage?
Yes. I get briefed on that daily. Again, we have hours and hours of that we're reviewing. So yes, but I get briefed.
Okay. And essentially, and we could clear up just in our last conversation, you weren't able to disclose what was in that film.
That is correct.
Okay. And that's all because it's part of the investigation, correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. Could we also report that there is some amount of circumstantial evidence pointing to foul play being involved?
Of course.
Could we say that the focus of the investigation is on the parents?
No.
It'll obviously be, part of the focus on whether they may have had a role.
Do we have anything to prove that? No, we don't have anything to prove that at this point.
But has your investigation led you to believe that you say foul play is involved?
I believe so, but that doesn't mean they're dead.
Do you think the kids, any leads saying that they may have been kidnapped?
Kidnapping means illegally moving one person from one point to another, whether it's from the front yard to the backyard or from the backyard to wherever. If someone took them out of the backyard, then yeah, that would mean they were kidnapped.
So it had to be, some other person involved, whether, a neighbor or, a family member or something like that.
That's what I do truly believe is that night
there's no way that they could have got out of that the neighborhood without some sort of assistance from an adult.
And earlier, I know in our first interview in front of the house on Aspen Avenue, you said that you suspected foul play. And do you still think that, and why or why not?
Absolutely. It goes back to I believe that there's no way those kids got out of that neighborhood without some sort of assistance. So if there was an adult that assisted them or took them out of the neighborhood, that would constitute foul play.
So exactly what constitutes foul play? It doesn't necessarily mean abuse. It just it means
foul play means that someone has taken the children and not divulged to their parents where they're at. That's just, we'll start basic 101 right there.
Someone else got involved in the
somehow, someone. Absolutely. Again, if I believe that they didn't get out alone, so someone had to have done that and has not reported to us, because everybody I would imagine, at least in the nation now, knows we're looking for these kids, has not reported it, then that would constitute foul play, because the only people those kids are supposed to be with are their parents.
We will look at both the possibility of an abduction or foul play, as we term, because foul play is ultimately a very loose term that can cover a wide range of circumstances.
What is the intuition? What is the sense you get? What do you think happened to your boys? Do you think someone took them? Do you think they're lost? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely know they're not walking around. They're not that kind. They do not just roam around. You know, these patches. They definitely, I think definitely would have been picked up or something.
That was my assumption.
Have they ever taken off of the yard before?
No.
They've never taken off?
No.
Mark, you were a suspect in the beginning, flat out a suspect, correct?
Yeah. And I understand that. They explained that to me. They were really good. The police were really good up front about explaining certain things to me. They explained that I would be a suspect, and the easiest way for them to find out what happened to Polly would be for me to eliminate myself from suspicion.
Right.
And that, in fact, anybody that came under suspicion would have to be eliminated from suspicion so they could keep moving closer and closer and closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I was willing. I told them right up front, I said, look, you do what you have to do. If I have to take a polygraph, I'm more than happy to take a polygraph. If you want me to dance naked on the table, I'll do that. You know?
Yes,
absolutely. You tell them what you need. And the other thing, though, that they told me, Tricia, that the other two things that they told me are, number one, they said any information about the case, any important case information, I would hear from them, and I would not hear it from the media first. And they also were very clear that there were two designated individuals, one from the FBI and one from the Petaluma Police, that would be my personal contact, so that if I had questions, if I had information to share, if I had anything, I could go through those two individuals. So that set the parameters for our investigation. But I have to tell you, given all that, it was still a terrible emotional roller coaster. And every day that law enforcement came out and said that they didn't know where Polly was and they had nothing new to report, in my mind, was the day that they were failing to do their jobs. And I look at it differently now. I understand things very differently now, but that's definitely the way it was back in the day.
But, again, I have not reviewed that video, so I can't speak to that.
Okay, and it doesn't mean another law enforcement agency hasn't reviewed it. It just means that CCPD may have not seen it, right?
That is correct.
Is the FBI still involved? Are they still supporting you guys?
They're still processing our evidence, to the best of my knowledge.
And some of that evidence is also being processed by Bakersfield Police currently.
That is correct.
And
Bakersfield has played a big part because, they have the technology, they have the labs, and they have the manpower to help us out.
Police Chief Walker says the security cam footage is consistent with the statements from Trezell and Jacqueline West. Security camera footage of a neighbor to Trezell and Jacqueline West shows on December 21st at 5:53, Trezell starts looking for the boys around the neighborhood. The neighbor admits the timestamp on the security camera footage is 1 hour off.
What appears right here is someone, I'm assuming by his statement, is Trezell getting into a white van in front of the property and exiting. And it looks like he makes a left turn and goes eastbound on Aspen.
Trezell comes back to the home 6 minutes later. Fast forward to 5:53. California City Police arrive.
This is 5:53. So can you tell me?
5:53 is consistent again. We received the call at 5:48, and we were on scene within 5 minutes. So that makes absolute sense. And it looks like I'm assuming Trezell and Jacqueline walking up to the police car and discussing with my officer, giving them information of what they've reported.
Trezell gets in his van and looks for the boys around the neighborhood more, while the officer looks for Orrin and Orson with a flashlight in the backyard.
I'm absolutely confident at this point my officer is beginning his search where the kids were seen last, and that would be in the backyard.
We saw dogs on the other side of the fence. We did not see children on the other side of the fence. So not saying they weren't in the backyard, just from the security cam footage and the angle the camera was at, we could not see children through an outline or anything on the other side of the fence. Is that same with police?
Yeah, that's a correct statement.
Take a look at this video. You can see an adult holding the door open while 4 children go into the van. Then later that day, 2 adults, which appear to be Trezell and Jacqueline, come back to the house without any kids. Chief Walker says the Wests say they dropped off 4 of their children, not including Orrin and Orson, at a family member's house that day. Walker says that day, December 19th, was the last day the other 4 children say they saw Orrin and Orson.
To this point, we've, executed over 20 search warrants as a supporting law enforcement agency, and we'll continue to put manpower and process information and look for these boys 24/7.
Somebody yesterday informed me they spotted a vehicle that looked identical to the parents' van coming back from the direction of Silver Saddle on Sunday, the day before the boys were reported missing.
Well, today we're out at Silver Saddle, the old resort, about 15 miles north of California City, just off of one of the citizens saying that they possibly saw a white van coming from there a couple days prior to the kids being going missing. So we went out there, probably had about 50 personnel from multi-agencies, and we searched the whole property.
On Saturday, 50 personnel from the FBI, the Bakersfield Police Department, and Kern County Search and Rescue participated in the search. According to BPD, officials spent several hours in the area and wrapped up shortly after 12 p.m. And Sergeant Robert Pear of the Bakersfield Police Department says the boys were not found during the search.
That's right, Alex. We have been out here all evening, and I'm here off of Potomac Avenue in East Bakersfield, and I'm in the neighborhood of the adoptive grandparents' area. Now, again, I have to tell you, just to remind you of this area, just a few weeks ago, a prayer was held here for Orson and Orrin West just a few weeks ago by the biological family as well. And we were just 10 minutes away where the Bakersfield Police Department conducted a very massive search near the Casa Loma apartments near Cottonwood Road and East Pacheco Road just last weekend. And like as you mentioned, they have taken over this investigation. And according to neighbors, they tell me that they saw the Bakersfield Police Department out here earlier today as well.
Is she getting help somehow from somebody? You know, she's gotten financial help before from local churches, so she could be getting sort of the same assistance, or could be getting help from a more sophisticated organization, the kind that helps mother and children, shelter them, hide them. Take a look at the faces of these two missing California boys tonight. That's 4-year-old Orrin West on the left and his 3-year-old brother Orson on the right.
The FBI is seeking information on the whereabouts of this mother and daughter from South Carolina. Jennifer Lee Settle is wanted for allegedly abducting McKenna Butcher in April after learning that full custody would be given to the 11-year-old's father. Special Agent Robert Hammond.
It was at that point that Jennifer took McKenna to Maryland and visited some family friends where she told them that she was going to disappear and that they would never hear from her again.
Parental abduction. Abductors may be other family members or their agents, although in most cases, the abductor is a child's parent. This crime may include incidents in which children are detained or enticed away from the custodial parent. Custodial interference can also be defined to include interference with a court order of time-sharing, visitation, or access. Way too many cases of international parental-child kidnappings into the USA have been reported from countries all over the world, including Australia, France, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Germany, India, Japan, Mexico, Philippines, Spain, and the United Kingdom.
They have access to the police databases. They have taken our computers, they've taken all our documentation, and that documentation is replete with descriptions and evidence of the children's abuse. Yet they do nothing. We protected these children from abuse. Whatever we've done, we've given these children 4 years of freedom.
To share what is the best interest of the child in these situations. So can somebody help bring that all together? Because it seems like way got far afield as to how it relates to the bill and what goes on.
I can speak to the best interests of the children. There are several factors.
And parents can fight about them. They can fight about how many, which parent took them to more medical appointments. They can fight about which one did more, went to more of the activities. They can, as earlier said, which one got along better. They can fight about who loves the children more, which parent the child is more associated with. And I trust parents. I've represented both sides of parents for 25 years, and I really do believe that if we give them those rights, they're not going to abuse them. We don't have to have courts second-guessing them. They're not going to say, I want more time just for the money, or I want more money, so I want more time, or whatever way the money will not be involved. Parents will go in and they'll acknowledge and they'll submit to the other parent, and they'll each get along. And they won't need lawyers, so I'll be out of a job.
And on that day, the sisters disappear without a trace. What was your reaction?
What any mother's reaction would be. I'm concerned, I am worried, everything was going through my mind.
Where did they go? Who are they with? And why does our journey begin by asking questions to their mother inside the Ramsey County Jail?
Did you have anything to do with your two daughters running away?
No.
Do you sit here and think, how did this happen?
Clean record, never had a
Clean
problem.
record, and here you are in jail on $1 million bail? What's going on?
I've never done anything but be there for my children. My kids are my life.
David begins to suspect that Sandra knows more than she's saying about their missing daughters.
Did you think she might have something to do with this?
Yeah, oh yeah.
1 month after the girls' disappearance, there is a bizarre twist in the story. They show up, but in a place no one expects.
The Rucky girls say they want to be heard.
On local television.
They met with us at a hotel. We don't know who brought them here.
The local Fox 9 station airs this story. And right there, sitting in front of the reporter, are the two missing Rucky sisters. And as quickly as you can change the channel, the girls are gone again, vanishing back into the night. Sandra's legal troubles were only about to begin. The search for the two missing girls shifts to one of Sandra's staunchest supporters, Dee Evavold, an activist who is vocal about what she says is corruption in family courts. Detectives search her home and find a cell phone photo of one of the girls on a farm. They trace that photo back to White Horse Ranch. Gina and Doug Dolan own the ranch, which offers 90-minute therapy sessions with their animals. The Dollins say it was Sandra, along with Dee, who dropped the girls off at the ranch one night with no more than the clothes on their back. Then Sandra left and never returned. Days turned into months, and then astonishingly, years.
I had a lot of doubts in my mind. It took me like a week and a half after coming home to call him Dad. You know, it was hard because you're told one thing for a lot of your life, and then, you know, you see that it's just lies. And as a kid, it's, you know, you feel betrayed.
5 years ago, the Goldman Act was passed by Congress and signed into law, helping people like David get their children home.
All inspired by Sean and David, including a dramatic decline in the number of new cases of parental child abduction and the resolution of many others.
The other parent is going to be telling the child a lot of bad things about the parent that they're not in contact with. That's going to skew their perception of the other parent, and it might influence their decisions on where to live. And, you know, as a young child, you don't really fully understand what's going on because nobody's really telling you exactly what's going on. But as I got older, I was able to see what happened and how they tried to skew my perception. I mean, it's crazy what people will do just to, you know, win. Yeah.
search for the two missing girls shifts to one of Sandra's staunchest supporters, Dee Dee Evevold, an activist who is vocal about what she says is corruption in family courts.
I went to the FBI to report the criminal complaint that I had filed against Philip Prokopowicz, James Backstrom, and Catherine Kina, all Dakota County attorneys. I've been trying to file complaints and trying to get the public educated about how you cannot get anywhere in the court system by playing by their rules, because there's no rule of law that's being adhered to.
Right, because even when you file criminal complaints, it doesn't seem to faze them too much, okay?
Right.
But it did seem to get their attention where it took you out of testifying for Sandra's case. So apparently if you think differently, you've been told to get an attorney, correct?
Numerous times.
Okay. Would an attorney suggest that you file criminal complaints against the Dakota County attorney?
Absolutely not.
Would an attorney suggest that you go to the FBI and report?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So obviously the only way you can win is by not following the rules which they say that you have to follow, correct? Okay.
The video would get the public enraged about why are these children missing and what's the whole situation behind this, and that it would create a public outcry and that people would write to their legislators or the judge and find out more about this whole situation.
It wasn't necessarily about getting the public sort of whipped up about finding these girls. It was about getting the public sort of whipped up about looking at this case, right? So I'm just trying to get you to tell me that.
Yeah. For me, having the background and watching what's happened and transpired in family court, I was really hoping that this would be the story that would make everyone aware, because this is going on behind closed doors in courtrooms every day. And I was hoping that this would be the case where people would really start to understand what's going on and how these courts are designed and how children are being taken from parents. At one of the hearings, we did have signs that we, took out that said to go to Carver County Corruption, read about this, read about Judge Knutson and the other players that are involved in this court case. And we thought that would get enough people to really stand up to this. And again, write to the paper, why are you not covering this? Also had said that something had come from my computer on Sandra's Facebook, in which I said I had her password, and I posted on that because Sandra has a lot of followers that are nationwide. And I admitted to them that it did come from my computer, and it was me that had done that.
So, and this was when Sandra was this when she was in jail already? Or?
No, Sandra was, they hadn't.
But you were posting on her Facebook for her just to keep people sort of abreast of what was going on.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so just tell us a little bit more about that you did have Sandra's permission and her password to go onto her Facebook page and to keep the public.
Yes. And I had posted, I really don't remember what I had posted, but I posted on that, kept things here and there. Other people also had access to her Facebook and would post things to update. Cindy Dumas is from Safe Kids International, and she's someone that would go there frequently and get information out to others that are involved in court cases themselves and are also advocates. When I was just freaking out on them, watching them take everything. They took all of our computers, my son's computer, my daughter's, all of our phones, or not all of our phones, my phone, and then they had all of my documents, because I've helped other people. I have a lot of other documents in my house, and they were going through them one by one, and I was trying to basically stop them and see what, stop them from digging through my stuff. And I was just very verbally aggressive.
You're being sort of aggressive with them, telling them, I don't want you in my house. And what did they do?
And one of the detectives said I was interfering with the process, and because I was gathering my stuff that was on my counter, And I was being very verbally aggressive about that, and the female officer then whipped me around and cuffed me, and I had to go sit on a chair and watch them go through my house and carry bags of information out.
And so, did you have a sense of the kind of stuff they were taking and they were looking for? I mean, did you know, as you sat there in handcuffs, did you know what they were going to find?
I just knew that they were taking information. I had a lot of information in my house from, like I said, other cases, and getting other people's private information. That was the most disturbing. And I was supposed to be going to a meeting that day.
And so were you, but when they took your phone, did you remember at that time that there were these photos on there? I mean, were you worried that, did you know when they took it, okay, well, they're going to see these photos, and they're going to come back and ask me these questions about it?
At the time they took that, I really didn't know. I have a lot of information on my phone. I have a lot of information, just tons of things that I've done over 7 years. Documents, things that I've been involved in.
So you sort of knew when they took that phone, they're going to come back to me and they're going to ask me these questions, like, well, where is this picture taken? And obviously they'd be able to tell the date of the picture, right?
I don't know if I'd answer that. Yeah. I don't know if I'd answer that. I don't know. I'm not
the Dallins, I met them. I used to work with Gina Dallin when we worked for a pharmaceutical company, and I knew that she really had a passion to start a ranch and to help kids and families that are going through turmoil. And so I knew that these are good, honest, salt-of-the-earth people. I was very confident with Gina and Doug. They have a great community that's backed them.
So my last question is just that I know that when people watch this, there will be people that are going to say, how did you know, I mean, you obviously you told us you didn't really know Sandra that well. How did you know for sure that what she was telling you was true? Like, how did you know that this might not have just been a mom who was in an ugly divorce and was going to say whatever she needed to say? Because I would imagine both of you have seen situations like that before, right? How did you know this was not that?
Sandra doesn't act. You can't even begin to act.
You sat right here and spent half an hour telling me you hadn't seen or spoken to your daughters. If you were lying to me about that, what else might you be lying to me about?
When we first spoke to Sandra, she told us she wasn't involved in the disappearance of her daughters.
Did you have anything to do with your two daughters running away? No. You didn't know where they were these last 2 years?
After nearly 6 months of our 2020 investigation, we've explored that loosely organized underground network of activists hiding children in nasty divorce cases and tracked down every key player in the Rucky case. The Dollins, Dee Dee Evivold, Dale Nathan, all supporters of Sandra's who say they weren't part of any network, but who authorities say helped her hide her daughters for 2.5 years.
Dale Nathan said that he was with you when your two daughters jumped in the back seat without shoes or coats, and then you drove off.
This
is that
is
true?
related to the trial.
Yeah, that'll all be talked about at the upcoming trial.
I can't comment on anything related to the trial. You know
Well,
that.
all I'm telling you is you sat right here and spent half an hour telling me you hadn't seen or spoken to your daughters.
And
I've now spoken to 3 people who tell us, in fact, that's a lie. So if you were lying to me about that, what else might you be lying to me about?
I can't discuss anything regarding the trial. I just can't.
Sandra's strongest proof was always the testimony of her children. But today, one of those children has recanted his story. Oldest son, Nico.
Get up there, Nico.
That little boy from the home videos. And the same son who later posted that damning Facebook message accusing his father of physical abuse. He now says all of that was a lie, and that it was his mother who pressed him into believing it was true.
She started to say, like, your dad's this bad guy. Your dad, like, hurt you when you were younger. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I don't remember any of this. Well, it happened to you. It's like, And at the time I believed it because you listen to your mom.
He says he was 15 years old and he couldn't understand why she didn't want him to see his father.
I felt really close to my dad, and I was still confused on what was going on. Like, why wasn't I seeing my dad?
Nico now says he never saw his father physically abuse his mother or his brother and sisters. As for that Facebook post, Nico says Sandra stood over him while he typed, coaching him on exactly what to say.
When I look at my writing then and what I wrote then, that doesn't sound like me, and I feel really bad.
He continues to tell us that you brainwashed them into thinking they were abused.
And you don't find that questionable?
Well, what do you think? You're his mom.
I haven't seen Nico for a long time. It's sad.
They spent 2 years working on a horse farm. They didn't go to school.
You don't think I think about all these things? I know what these kids have been put through. But it wasn't me who put these through. This was the system that put the kids through this.
It is painfully clear as you watch her son Nico struggle with the simple question, does he still love his mother?
I want to say no, but she's my mom. She just doesn't feel like a mom.
Nico, wave it dad.
You know, and if you want to go start over in a different city, somewhere else where maybe you're not known, I mean, maybe that might help you. You know, I don't know. Change my name. It's always gonna be on the internet. I'm the one that started it all. But at 14, honey, I just don't know how you could come up with this whole plan to... I did though. And I know no one believes me, but I did. So your mom must have knew, though, somewhere to go, to take you, though. I told her where to meet us. I'm the one that called her, I did. During that year, I really tried hard to stay out of it. And I wanted to have a normal life, and I wanted to be with my friends.
While Sandra is now suddenly not talking about her case, her attorney Michelle McDonald hints at a possible defense, saying if Sandra truly believed her children were in danger, she was free to break the law to protect them.
They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she didn't have a reasonable belief that her children needed protection.
It's crazy what people will do just to, you know, win, yeah.
And that's a problem. I get these nasty messages like, why aren't you out there looking for the kids? Well, I am out there looking for the kids on a daily basis. I haven't done anything different or less than that since the 21st of December of last year.
Yeah, cyclist, hey, whoa, what are you doing? Oh, Mr. Car, what are you doing, you naughty car? Now, how do you feel?
I woke up to a lot of propaganda. And I thought, well, confidential informant? What's so confidential about what I've been doing?
You know, one of those channels that are all over driving up and down and stuff popped in and called me a stalker.
You'll pick up on one or two things that serve to only confirm the reality that you want to believe at that particular moment, right? So when you're asking for somebody's sense, or what did they feel, what do you know in your heart, that's immediately a question that's designed to get at emotiveness, right? Your emotive drive to answer these questions isn't coming from a place of reason that's based upon detail for exactly what the detail is. It doesn't need to be clouded in this way. So whether that's the interviewer, the journalist, asking these kind of questions specifically to get that kind of a response or not is up for debate.
Say that a mother has the best intuition of her kids. What do you think happened?
That question makes me as close to certain as I can that that's the fault of the interviewer then, trying to ask specific questions to get a particular kind of response. If you want something large in terms of a display or meaning or potency, again, you ask that kind of a question when a mother's skills are called into question. That's an incendiary response. When you talk about that kind of lioness quality that a mother always knows best. Well, clearly something's happened where she's gone through a moment where she didn't know best, because they wouldn't have been removed from her care if she did. So, to ask that kind of a question makes me think that the journalist knows exactly what he's doing to try and achieve the desired effect of words that are said specifically for an outcome.
They did something. I feel like they did something, and they know something. They did something, and I feel my kids is somewhere around here. I feel it, and I feel like they're in the house, and I feel like they did something.
For a mother's intuition, I know you were saying, and we'll get your names after this, but you were saying how you feel like they're in this area. Do you feel the same way? And what is the intuition? What is the sense you get? What do you think happened to your boys? Do you think someone took them? Do you think they're lost? A lot of people are speaking of this as, after the math, past tense. I want to talk about your kids in present tense. What kind of boys are these? Tell us about the boys.
Well, Jim, this case has caused a lot of infighting between members of the public who feel deeply connected to the boys. This civil war has caused the spread of many rumors online that sometimes are harmless, but not always. That neighbor then put pictures of Hutton all over the adoptive parents' house, along with a banner asking Doug Hutton, "Where are the boys?" On Friday, Hutton saw the postings and took them down. Police say Hutton was then cited and released.
Tell us. Hey, good evening. I spoke to a few neighbors here. We're on Potomac Avenue and South Owen Street. They told me earlier today they saw Bakersfield police officers, but we have confirmed with the California City Police Chief a warrant was served here at the home of the adoptive grandparents of Orrin and Orson West. Now,
And meantime, the Kern County District Attorney's Office is asking for the public's help finding a 2-year-old boy abducted by his mother who does not have custodial rights. Noah Jax Alexander Hernandez was abducted March 4th and is believed to be in the Bakersfield area. He's described as 2 feet 8 inches tall, about 30 pounds. An arrest warrant has been issued for his mother, 28-year-old Amanda Hernandez. Anyone with information on their whereabouts is asked to call 979-5592 or 911 to report it.
And a 2-year-old boy is safe and the mother is in custody after abducting her child 2 weeks ago. Prosecutors say Noah Jax Alexander Hernandez was abducted March 4th by his mom, who does not have parental custody rights. 28-year-old Amanda Hernandez turned herself in last night and returned Noah safely. The district attorney's office issued a statement saying in part that court orders for children have the force of law and disputes about custody must be handled lawfully through the proper court process. Refusing custodial rights to a parent who has been granted them by a court order is a criminal offense.
From our 17 follow-up file now, last week we brought you the story of a Bakersfield woman wanted for allegedly abducting her own child from the father. But there's more to this story. Tonight we are hearing from the woman and the attorney that represents the boy's father. 17's Perla Shaheen is in studio now with more on this family feud. Perla?
Amanda Hernandez lost custody over her 2-year-old son 3 weeks ago. Thursday, she was arrested for abducting him. Hernandez says she's the victim of physical and emotional abuse, and the father's attorney says things didn't have to end like this. The custody battle between Jaquil Randall and Amanda Hernandez began last year.
My son is my whole world, and all I was trying to do was protect him.
Their 2-year-old son was in his mom's custody when the couple broke up. But Randall hired an attorney to fight for more time with his son. Hernandez didn't have representation.
That's what got me in this hole, because the other side did have representation, and they just kept filing and filing stuff on me, and I didn't have a chance to provide, the reason of why I was keeping him away.
Hernandez says she was emotionally and physically abused by her ex, but never reported it to police and gave no evidence of the abuse in court.
I have failed to report, to press charges, to file a restraining order, because I was afraid.
The court ordered Hernandez to allow the father to visit his child. Hernandez refused.
She outright told the judge no, she would not follow orders. We're talking about close to 6 months that my client wasn't getting visits, and she just straight denied it.
On March 4th, the judge gave full custody to the father.
I would not have been able to get my client custody had she not done what she did.
That same day, the district attorney's office put out a warrant for her arrest.
Saying that, I abducted him and that he was in danger. But that's not true at all. I've had my son since the day he was born. We've never been separated from each other, ever.
Hernandez called attorneys and friends trying to figure out what to do. 2 weeks later, she turned herself in and her son was given to his father.
It hurt me by giving up my son, but, I had no choice.
Hernandez recently hired an attorney. Her next court date is April 12th. Perla Shaheen, 17 News.